Guys, welcome to Week 9 Waiver Wire ads. We have Tyler here and Johnny Parlay, part of the Dog Pound. Welcome. Let's get right into it. Johnny, who do you got up top at your number one waiver wire ad? I know your spot's a little deep.
Yeah, well, you know who I really like right now is Tyler Conklin out of the Jets, tight end. I know. However, here's the deal. There's no one to throw to in New York right now. You got Elijah Moore kicking and screaming. Looks like he's probably trying to find the next flight out of town. Looks like the next flight's directly into the doghouse. Does not look like he's going to see the field anytime soon. So that means we're looking at Garrett Wilson and someone else has to catch the ball. Right now, that's looking like Conklin. He got 10 targets for a tight end. That's something to highlight. He got 6 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns, which, of course, we love that. 12% owned in Yahoo leagues. And, it looks like a guy that you got to go after right away, especially if you're having any tight end woes, which is most people at this point of the season.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Right along those lines, another great streaming tight end this week could be Robert Tonyan. This is an offense that, they haven't had Christian Watson too much this season, but he's out with the concussion, and we know that since the Tua injury, they're kicking these guys off the field for 2 weeks. Again, Alan Lazard isn't back yet, so they're playing the Detroit Lions, and we're expecting probably a pretty high-scoring game. Every game that they play has been pretty much a shootout this season. I like Tonyan next week against the Lions.
Well, he's got to trust somebody. Rodgers has to trust somebody out there, and he keeps losing wide receivers left and right. Apparently, Lazard heard a pop and a crack in his shoulder, so who knows when he's coming back. I think that's a good ad.
Yeah, I hear that's not a good thing.
I think it's also worth noting with Conklin. I don't think I'm quite as high or as sold on him as you are yet, but I think it's worth noting. You look at his snap counts over the last 8 weeks, and they've significantly decreased with Zach Wilson coming back. It seems like they're kind of straying away from using tight ends as much now that Joe Flacco's not in the game. They're kind of trying to air the ball out a little bit more. But like to your point, I do think they're going to have to throw the ball more. They're probably going to be playing from behind in some of these games moving forward. They have Buffalo next week. Then they're on a bye. Then they're back against New England. Hopefully he can get that same type of production value against New England again. New England hasn't played well against tight ends this year. I just think be tentative with Conklin. I think he could be a really good ad, especially towards the end of the season and playoffs with some of his weaker matchups being Detroit and Jacksonville late season. So I think he's definitely a guy that you would throw a flyer on if you do need a tight end, especially towards that late season push.
Yeah, 16 targets in the last 2 weeks. That's something to pay attention to at least,
Yeah. Chase the volume for sure, especially when it comes to tight end. You're shooting to get 6 points, and if they get into the end zone, we're talking about 13 points.
And he passes the eye test too. He just looks electric out there, and they just don't have a lot going for them right now in the way of weapons. And I guess you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point of the year on the waiver wires anyhow. Especially in deeper leagues. So if somebody pops like that, who all of a sudden is getting 10 targets in the game, you got to look at it. The touchdowns that you don't want to pay too much attention to just because those are a little bit more fickle, a fickle mistress indeed. However, those targets, you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is a Jets team that just lost their whole offense in Breece Hall, and they wanted to run the ball. And we'll see if it's going to be the same sort of run game with Robinson and Carter. We know it's not going to be, so it's going to lead to more throws. It is going to be a different styled offense without Breece Hall. So
and you almost saw that, like the immediate kind of production that he saw an uptick in with Breece Hall being absent. And the running game hasn't looked as good. They started to throw the ball a little bit more often, and those targets went directly to Conklin. So
Did you see that catch and run where he ran one or two people over? It just kind of
Oh
reminded me
yeah.
of Gronk right there.
Yeah, he's got talent, man. And here's the thing, too. I mean, you gotta say it. You gotta say it. Wilson's been throwing the ball to the other team more than he's been throwing the ball to his own team. So, fact is, to your point, Tyler, they are going to be falling behind in these games, especially if they can't trust their quarterback to throw to the right jersey. So, they're going to be playing from behind. That's for sure.
All right, Tyler, who do we have up for the waiver wire?
So I kind of went the same way with tight end. My guy probably available in a little bit less leagues, still available 66% of leagues. Greg Dulcich, tight end, Denver. Looks like to me he's probably going to finish up as like a top 10 tight end. He's the tight end number one out there in Denver. We know Wilson's had his issues this year, but that whole offense has kind of looked stale. But Dulcich has been somewhat of a bright spot over the last 3 weeks. He's played, like I said, just the 3 games, but he's already third on the team in receiving yards. He's got the 1 touchdown. In his 3 games played, he's got 17 targets, which is third on the team behind Sutton and Judy. And just his snap percentages the last 3 weeks, he's been on the field for over 65% of the snaps, like the offensive snaps over the last 3 weeks. And I just think the volume that he's seeing so early on, the trust that Wilson has in him, it's looked promising, and I think he could sneaky be like a league winner, especially in the weak tight end area.
Tried telling everyone before the season even started, avoid Albert O. This is not the guy. He just had his third week in a row inactive, healthy scratch. So Greg Dulcich, definitely someone that's climbing up the boards. He's going to be on a bye next week. So if you don't have one of those top 5, 6 tight ends and you're looking for someone that might potentially give you some value towards the end of the season, help you win the league, and you can afford the bench spot, that seems like a great ad.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even furthermore
Okay.
with that, it's like you look at the matchups when he comes back from the bye week. He's got Tennessee, the Raiders, Carolina, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Arizona. All teams that have been terrible against tight ends this year. Dulcich is targeted on about 29% of his routes ran, which is like the 95th percentile for tight ends this year. So just the usage that he's getting so early on, they're incorporating him into the offense a lot more. And I mean, Wilson's been faced with a lot of pressure early on this season and all throughout the year. And just, splitting that extra tight end out gives an extra target downfield that I think he uses a lot more than he's been going outside with Sutton and Judy.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Johnny, who's the second guy you're targeting?
Well, I feel like I have to mention him because he made us all look smart from our last video here where we called the over on Terrence Marshall at 28 and a half yards. He sailed by that for a good 87 yards. No big deal. 9 targets, 4 catches. So here's a guy who's 1% owned. So chances are he's out there, unless you're in my league because he's on my team. But here's the thing: they've been talking this guy up all off season, all season long. I guess he was a preseason superstar. He's killing it in practice every day, and here he is now finally with an opportunity to shine. The McCaffrey trade opens up a whole lot of targets, a whole lot of opportunity in Carolina, and DJ Moore can't get all the looks. He needs some help, and Terrence Marshall is there to help. And as of right now, I think if you're looking on the waiver wire, it's tough to find an impact wide receiver right now. And here's a guy who could very well be that for your squad.
Yeah, no, I agree. In Carolina's, I mean, did they get better when they traded Christian McCaffrey away? Donta Foreman reincarnated. He looks like Derrick Henry, like a mini Derrick Henry out there. This is a team that they're gonna be probably chasing from behind. PJ Walker is gonna be throwing the ball, and he's not afraid to huck it. He threw for over 300 yards. It wasn't efficient, but it doesn't have to be in fantasy. Give me the ugliest points possible. Just give me a lot of them.
Absolutely. And you got to bet on talent in fantasy as well. And if there's a talented young guy, usually at this point of the year, a young guy that didn't get the opportunities or haven't seen the opportunities, and so you're waiting for that guy to pop, now's the time to add him. It might already be too late, but if you're still on your wire, I say go for it. I'm not saying he's a league winner, but at this point, you're just looking for guys with a pulse on the wire, and this guy's got a pulse.
Yeah, I like it. Definitely
Yeah, no
trending
doubt.
upwards.
No doubt. And obviously the immediate impact he saw when McCaffrey left, Robbie Anderson got traded. His snap count went up by, he tripled his snap count in the last 3 weeks. He was sitting around like 10, 20 snaps first couple weeks throughout the season. McCaffrey departed. Anderson's gone. His snap count jumps to 67. So, like you said, someone has to be getting those offensive reps and those targets, and it seems like he's gonna be that guy right next to DJ Moore that's gonna be taking in all those targets.
Absolutely. And they have a tough matchup next week in Cincinnati. But after that, they're looking at 2 juicy matchups with Atlanta, followed by Baltimore. And these are teams that can't be thrown on. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But I'm feeling pretty optimistic about his outlook.
All right. Next on my list, I have Joshua Palmer, available in a surprising 74% of leagues, coming off the bye. Keenan Allen did not practice today on Monday, and this is a guy who can blow up on any given week in an offense that likes to drive the ball, likes to score a lot of touchdowns, a lot of points. Joshua Palmer, definitely going to be someone that I'm going to be focused on grabbing this week. Might be my top ad. Playing Atlanta as well, and they can't stop anything. So, and Keenan Allen, he has proven he can't stay on the field right now. So it seems like a nagging injury.
It's troubling. Somebody get this guy a Tiger Balm. He's got to rub something on that hammy and get moving here because he's killing my team.
Yeah, he needs some
Yeah,
CBD oil or
I'm
something.
right there with you in that. I think it's worth noting with Palmer too, like, if Williams does end up missing time or however much time Williams misses, Palmer is questionably gonna be the number 1 receiver over there. I know we know they like to use Austin Eckler 99.999% of snaps over there, but they have to throw the ball down the field. They've been playing somewhat decent football so far this year, but it seems like they've always kind of been chasing too. It feels like Herbert's kind of just been playing catch up most of these games or just trying to air the ball out and make big plays happen. And Palmer has that big play potential. He was even getting a lot of reps before Mike Williams' injury. And, with Keenan Allen being out, Mike Williams being out, who's going to step up and really take that? And I think, coming out of this bye week, he's got some pretty favorable matchups going forward with Atlanta, San Francisco, Kansas City. So he's definitely a guy worth, throwing that waiver wire out and trying to get that big playmaker in.
Yeah.
I would say too, even if like the good thing about Palmer is let's say he gets Keenan Allen finds a fountain of youth and gets his way back onto the field. I don't think it affects Palmer's worth that much while Williams is out. Because the thing is, he's more of that field stretcher type. He's more of that X receiver rather than your slot guy. Keenan Allen's kind of in his own kind of domain out there. He's not going to take away touches from Palmer, I don't think. I mean, sure, he's a target hog, but Palmer plays a different position entirely. It's more of a Mike Williams situation. So as long as Mike Williams is out, Palmer is going to be valuable, even if Keenan Allen's on the field.
Yeah. In that last game against Denver, he had 9 catches, 12 targets. So it's the volume that we love to see. Yeah, regardless if Keenan Allen's playing or not, you could flex Palmer this week very easily with confidence in what could be a pretty high scoring game on the Chargers account.
And the Chargers defense.
We lost Johnny. Johnny, sorry, you just got X'd by a little thing called the internet and probably Mark Zuckerberg. Tyler, we can just go right to your waiver wire ad. What do we
Yeah,
got? What's up
yeah.
next?
So number 2 for me, quarterback. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks this year kind of take nosedives. I mean, Brady hasn't looked great. Wilson been super disappointing. Same with Rodgers. A lot of these guys are not on the field and just playing to their full potential as what we had all hoped and expected. But Justin Fields, available in 74% of leagues, he's trending up. He started the season off really slow. There's no denying that. That offense is kind of stale looking. They're going to be a catch up team for the rest of the year. They're selling away all their main defensive pieces over there.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're going to be a catch up team. They're in a rebuilding phase, but Justin Fields has been that bright spot in the last few weeks. He's trending up right now. And I like, the fact that he's available in 74% of leagues is pretty crazy to me because that means people are out there still starting Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
That's so true. And what you love to see from Justin Fields right now is that rushing floor that he's giving you. And the last 2 games, getting in the end zone on the ground, we're talking 60 yards, 82, 88, 47, 52, 47. So he's giving you that nice comfy floor, and there's a lot of room for more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just looking ahead at his schedule, it's so hard to just not pick him up and immediately plug him into your lineup. He's got Miami, Detroit, Atlanta, the Jets, the Packers, and then he's on a bye week. So the way he's trending right now, like you said, he's got the rushing potential. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns on the year, 430 yards rushing. He's averaging 5.6 yards per rush. So
Mhm.
he's making plays even when the protection breaks down. He has that extend the playability, and he is making plays. Believe it or not, and we even saw it against Dallas this past weekend.
Mhm.
Even when all coverage and everything broke down, he was still extending plays, getting outside, getting the ball down the field. That game looked like a lost cause from the first quarter, but he kind of made them scrappy and brought them back into it a little bit. He does make the rookie and second year quarterback mistakes where he's throwing the bad interceptions, but
Yeah.
it somewhat gets canceled out by his rushing. So, I mean, if you just take a look at the schedule, like I said, moving forward, it's so hard to not just immediately add and plug him right into your lineup.
No, it's true. Even at the QB position, you're looking for consistency, right? Um, Dak luckily just kind of gave us a little life. He was holding on by a wire. He needed that big game. I was getting worried about Dak.
Yeah. And even with the consistency part, it's like a lot of those big name guys, they haven't been consistent. I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 quarterbacks out there right now that you can say have been consistently good this whole season. And
Yeah,
even Lamar Jackson's had his woes where he's only put up, 10 points, 12 points in back-to-back stretches. And Fields surprisingly hasn't done that. He'll be QB 11 going into this week, and available in 74% of leagues is pretty high. So, I mean, if you're looking for a quarterback, especially moving forward in some must-win games for your fantasy team, I think Justin Fields is going to be the guy for you. Grab him while you can, plug him into your lineup. You're going to get some point value from that with these cushy matchups going forward. Fields is going to be the guy there.
yeah. No, I like that ad.
Wait, did I get just back in time to talk about the Bears? Is that it? The Bears?
Oh,
The Bears. Yeah.
Bears. Welcome back.
What
I
can
heard
I say? The
Mark
internet up
Zuckerberg.
here in Maine doesn't always work quite effectively.
Mark Zuckerberg x'd you. I'd like to talk about Baltimore here and a couple potential waiver wire ads on this team. You have Duvernay's news of he's going to miss a few weeks. They have a bye coming up, so maybe he's back
Wait,
for week
Duvernay
11.
or do you mean
Maybe
Bateman?
not. Bateman is out on with a
Yeah,
foot injury.
Bateman's out. Yep.
Oh, did I say
Absolutely.
Duvernay?
2-3 weeks.
Duvernay is a potential waiver wire ad. Now
Mm-hmm.
he's proven that he really isn't that X receiver. When Bateman was out, he wasn't able to cash in on that opportunity. But Mark Andrews was also hurt, so
Mm-hmm.
they were able to hyper focus in. But the other player on this team that I think is interesting is Kenyon Drake, with Dobbins still out on injury and Gus Edwards tweaking that hammy. Um, Kenyon Drake is someone that has shown a little life for this run game. Gus Edwards did too. The second Gus Edwards became the starter there, I thought Drake was, pretty much all done, maybe on third downs, but not startable. But with the Gus Edwards injury, I think Drake is an interesting flex or RB2 if you're desperate with buys.
I would have to agree for sure.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, it's hard to deny that Drake has been productive with the touches he's been getting. I mean, even in the limited capacity that he's seen this year, in that kind of rotating door backfield that Baltimore has, he's been productive. So it's hard to kind of just turn a blind eye to that and just say, oh, Gus Edwards will come back, Dobbins will come back, Hill's back there still taking up some of those carries. And Jackson obviously takes up a lot of those carries and rushing yards and potential rushing touchdowns. But it's hard to just kind of turn away from that and leave Kenyon Drake out to dry because he's been productive with his touches. So definitely worth a waiver wire ad, and especially moving forward in these next couple of weeks, he could be that RB2 that if you need it, which I desperately do. I'm still starting Daryl Henderson right now. So
all done. Sell high 2 weeks ago.
yeah, I tried. It didn't work out well.
Yeah. Oh, that's the sign that you're in a good league.
I'll say I'm not a fan of the Drake. However, that doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters in fantasy is opportunity, and he's getting that opportunity. And if you're the running back for the Baltimore Ravens, you're valuable. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I mean, all they want to do is run out there. And they got Lamar Jackson, and he barely throws the ball. So, yeah, I think it's a really good ad because he's getting that opportunity. How long he gets that opportunity, we'll see. But at this point of the season in fantasy, you got the bye weeks, you got injuries. So a guy like that is very valuable. It's all about the system, and that system is all about pounding the ball.
No doubt. And Lamar and the receivers, they're kind of been in this woe the last few games
Mm-hmm.
where the passing game hasn't looked very pretty. So they're going to be looking to win these tight games. They just made that trade for Roquan Smith,
Yeah.
stole the linebacker from the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears
So
are in full out tank mode at this point.
yeah,
Seems
the
like
the
it. I mean, that
Baltimore Ravens, they want to play this time of possession type of football.
Sure. That brings us to another player though on Baltimore, Isaiah Likely, tight end. And I understand he's a backup tight end, but here's the thing: like with Bateman hurt and Duvernay is good. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be opportunities there, and they like to play multiple tight end sets as well. So he's going to be on the field. And in the event that anything happens to Andrews, like it did this week, if you spend a second round pick on Andrews, you're gearing up for the playoffs. It's not the worst idea in the world to have him. And I'm going to say it, handcuff your tight end. In this case, when you're talking about a tight end you took in the second round, it's not crazy, especially when you go gearing up for the playoffs and you don't want to be out of luck at that position if Andrews goes down again, and he's been nicked up all season at this point. So not a bad ad.
I like it. Now there's a lot of these tight ends that you can stream right now. I think
Mhm.
it's pretty deep this season, deeper than years past.
Mm-hmm. But tight end's a lot like the running back, right? Where it's like it depends on the system that they're in too. So much so. So like in a situation like Baltimore, where they just want to keep playing the same way they're playing, if when Andrews goes down or if he goes down, you just plug that guy right into your lineup. And I'm not saying he's the same guy. He's not, but the production's there and the opportunity is there. And you saw what he did with it this week. I mean, he's a talented guy. They were really high on him out of college, and now they're giving him a shot. And he certainly cashed in on that this week.
Yeah, I mean, even if you judge him just solely on the eye test, like, he came in and he filled that role really well. He's athletic, he's fast. He did a great job against Tampa Bay, and depending on what Andrew's injury situation and health situation looks like moving forward, like you said, Baltimore likes to just they don't want to, change up their whole system because they're missing one player. And even
Mhm.
if that player is their best wide receiver slash tight end and Mark Andrews, they're going to just plug and play. And Isaiah
That's it.
Likely will fill that role, and he did it against Tampa Bay, and he did it really well.
Absolutely, and
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say there's not too many guys like that too that you can just plug in like that. You know what I mean? And he's proven to be one of those guys because I mean, if Kelsey goes down, I don't really feel like the Chiefs have a guy like that they can plug right in. And so this is a unique situation, and it's good to cover yourself. If, like you said, you take that high draft capital in the second round, it's not the worst idea in the world to have that insurance policy on your bench, especially this time of year where it's money time.
No
Please do
doubt.
not
This is
jinx the
money
Travis
time.
Kelce injury right now, though. Please, please, please. That's
The
all I have
reverse
going for me right
jinx.
now.
The reverse jinx right there. Another player that is highly owned, I just checked 90% owned, but could really benefit from an injury. It would be terrible, but if Cooper Kupp misses time, Tyler Higbee is guaranteed for 10 targets a game.
Mhm.
So that's something to watch. Keep an eye on his practices this week. But I think we touched on pretty much all the major injuries this week. You had Devontae Parker with a knee injury, kind of monitor his practices. Might be a big Myers week. Jamar Chase. The Bengals need this guy back. It's not the same team without him. It's just not the same team.
No, they looked flat. I mean, it looked like they had no offensive rhythm and they weren't able to really stretch the field at all. They're playing more of like a dink and dunk offense. I mean, they had the one deep ball to Higgins where he just mossed a guy and jumped over him and made a grown man play on the ball. But I mean, they just looked flat. They weren't able to get anything going. Mixon couldn't get anything going on the ground. And the way that offensive line has been this whole season, they needed those big plays out of Jamar Chase to kind of keep them in games.
Yeah, Joe Mixon with his best Najee Harris impression tonight.
It is very hard to understand why that line is performing so bad too. They went out and spent all the money on it in the offseason. They added Tooney, they high draft picks. I just don't understand why I haven't been able to gel at this point. I mean, obviously it takes a little bit longer for our offensive lines to get pulling together. Could take a month sometimes, but I mean, we're halfway through the fantasy season at this point, and Joe Mixon's averaging what per carry? Like, I mean, 2.5 yards a carry or something. You'd have to give me the number on that, but it's not looking great. It's not looking great.
3.3.
3.3. I mean, that's tough.
That
That's
is tough. He's being saved by the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one place where he might just benefit from Chase being out, but even still, it's like, how much are you gonna value 4, 5, 10-yard catches or 4 or 5, like, 3-yard catches
Mm-hmm.
for Joe Mixon if he's not able to run the ball more than 3 yards down the field on his 15 carries?
It's tough.
You saw them really struggle against a good run team tonight, and Cleveland dominated time of possession in this football game, and it didn't allow them to get the run game going with Joe Mixon. He only had 8 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
They got behind. It's not like Joe Burrow played a bad game, but without Chase, it's just it's an easier team to maintain.
Those in-division games are always tough too. I mean, you never really know what's going to go on there. Most of the time, they can be pretty sloppy affairs. However, this time Cleveland came to play. They came to play. You got to give them credit.
Yeah, they look good. They look good. I think I saw earlier, like Jacoby Brissett had 138 QBR tonight, just super efficient. Amari
Hey,
Cooper, Amari Cooper definitely not going to be a quarterback anytime soon,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, I mean,
he
Amari
went off
Cooper
tonight too.
was the worst quarterback on that team today, so
No doubt, no doubt. But all right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna be dropping a start sit video on Friday. And yeah, stay tuned, guys. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate the hot takes. And we'll see you soon.
Always a pleasure.
All right, good to be here. Johnny Parlay out.
See you guys.